So what can you do to ensure that your voice works for you? Some do's and don'ts. We'll go with the don'ts first, and I've alluded to some already. Obviously, smoking is the worst thing you can do to your voice. And if you're still smoking, I would urge you to think about quitting it for your general health as well as your vocal health. Neat spirits are not good for the larynx, nor too much alcohol or caffeinated drinks. Obviously, shouting, yelling, talking against background noise is not helpful to the voice. Also, throat clearing. You hear a lot of that around, that kind of thing. It's quite an abrasive action to the vocal cords. There's no cure for phlegm, I'm afraid, but if you have phlegm, if you swallow hard or have a sip of water, or if you must, just do a gentle cough, that's better and less harmful to the vocal cords than constantly rubbing them together and trying to clear your throat. Moving on to the do's, it's much nicer to look at the positives. Do look after your general well-being. You need to work on a good work-life balance and take some time for yourself. When I ask people this, what is your me time? Sometimes people look at me as if I've got two heads because they don't take any time for themselves. But it is important that you look after yourself so that you can then give of your best to other people. And that can be anything from Pilates or yoga. They're great for relaxation and breathing. Or you might want to go to the gym, running, or it might be something a bit more passive. It might be having a bath or watching the television or reading. But just some time that you want to spend doing what you want to do that's away from work. Drink plenty of water. It's important to keep your hydration levels up. The vocal cords are muscles, as I've said, but they're covered with mucous membrane, and it's the sound of wet mucous membrane coming together that makes sound. And so you need to keep your hydration level up. So we recommend about 1.5 litres of water a day. Steaming can be useful if you feel that your throat feels tired and achy after a day's teaching. Boil a kettle and fill up a jug of water, put a towel over your head and breathe in the steam. Gargling's good for the throat, but doesn't get down or shouldn't get down as far as your vocal cords, whereas steam does, and that can be quite soothing. Don't speak too fast and pause for breath. Sometimes people try and say far too much if it's getting towards the end of a lesson. They rush it and they're running out of breath. So remember to pause for a breath to top up the air in your lungs. Projection isn't all about loudness, it's also about clarity. So speak clearly and use varied intonation patterns. I'm sure you do this anyway with children, but sometimes when we're tired or we're feeling unwell, it's a bit more effortful and the intonation goes down, volume goes down, and we get a more restricted pitch range. So try and keep the intonation well balanced and you will engage with your audience better. If volume is a problem and you feel that constantly having to increase the volume, you may want to consider a portable voice amplifier. This doesn't involve being plugged into anything. It has a microphone which fixes over your head with a microphone which moves with your head, and it means you can speak at quite a low volume and the amplifier does the work for you. Try and get non-verbal ways of attracting children's attention so that you're not shouting over them. Get them quiet first of all, draw them in close to you so you're not having to raise your voice any more than you have to. Try and reduce the amount of talking you do. That's easier said than done, I know, but I know that sometimes teachers have actually videoed themselves when they're teaching. They've said that themselves, they realise they talk too much. Teachers tell me that they often have to repeat a lot. And maybe one way around that is to ask another child to repeat what you've said rather than you repeating it. So it saves your voice and you can see if the child has remembered what you've said.